Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's snowy here on the east side of Madison. I hope the weather is warm and balmy wherever you are, but if you're in Madison, it's probably snowy as well. Except for Miss Renee in Georgia. Welcome, my friend. Welcome, welcome. We're going to go ahead and give us maybe another minute or so to allow some more folks to join, and then we will go ahead and jump in. Good morning. I am so glad that we have all come together to talk about retiring rich and relaxed. I want to be rich and relaxed right now. But I'm so excited, so thrilled that we are all here together on this Saturday morning to get all of this goodness. I am Christine Russell, Director of Health and Wellness Programs for the Foundation for Black Women's Wellness. I have been here now just shy of a month, so I am just honored to be able to moderate this event and to be able to provide this information to you all this morning. First and foremost, though, I want to take a moment to thank Summit Credit Union, our long-standing partner at the foundation. We are pleased to have Amy Crow joining us this morning. Yes! Amy, can you take a moment just to introduce yourself and share a little bit about all of the resources Summit has to offer?
Thank you, Christine. I will. I'm so excited to be here to sponsor Kara to do the talk today. I've known her for years, and she is full of such rich, fantastic personal finance information. That's why Summit, we align so nicely with what Kara has to say, because we want to help people, we want to coach people, we provide financial education and complementary financial coaches, because we believe that when you have the right information, the right products, the right service, you can achieve anything. You can achieve your dreams. So whether it's, you're starting a small business and need some advice or a loan or some cash management services, or you just are like, I don't know what to do with my collections, or I don't know what to do with my credit card debt, or, hey, I have money and I don't know if I should put it in a certificate of deposit or start investing it. We can help you figure that out here at Summit. We have branches all over the southern Wisconsin area, into the Milwaukee area. Plus, we do virtual sessions too with folks. So it's super exciting. But I'm going to leave this to Kara. She is amazing. I cannot wait to hear what she has to say. And thanks for having me today.
Thanks so much, Amy. Thank you for that. Now for the Feminista of the hour, let me share a little bit about Miss Kara Stevens. She is the founder of the Frugal Feminista, a thriving personal finance and personal development company committed to helping people heal their relationship with money and themselves. She wants all people to be happy, wealthy, and brave so they can unapologetically live life on their own terms. Her relatable finance advice has been featured on Business Insider, Huffington Post, Yahoo Finance, Essence, Women's Day Magazine, The Washington Post, oh my goodness, and many other nationally recognized outlets. She is also the author of Heal Your Relationship with Money, The Happy Finances Challenge, and Unmasking the Strong Black Woman. Please help me to welcome Ms. Kara Stevens. You're on mute, Kara.
Thank you so much, everyone. Amy, Christine, so happy to be here again for this series. And I know that when I was creating this title, this will get you, right? Who doesn't want to retire rich and relaxed? And who doesn't want that now? We're going to be talking about that today. So in addition to that introduction that Christine offered, I also want to let you know who I am. I'm a person also wanting to retire rich and relaxed, and on my way making the plans to ensure that my retirement is something that is steady, that is predictable, and will not have to be a retirement that leaves me feeling deprived of all the experiences I want to create and have in my twilight years or my golden years. Now, who some of the norms for our community are, we've talked about this each and every time, is that we hold non-judgmental space for all of us to grow and process. And we also do the work when it is uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. And the tools that you need, if you're here with week 3, you're an expert on this by now. You're gonna need your notebook, journal, pen, soothing beverage, and a quiet, peaceful space for you to do this work. And who you are. I hope you are women, women of color, whoever you are, wanting to learn and get some advice and some support around retirement and just overall financial wholeness, so you can feel that what you want out of life and the money that you have come together to allow you to actually actualize and move forward with those goals and dreams. Now, if you weren't here for the last session, we were talking all about sexy credit and demolishing debt without deprivation. I'm going to give you a recap because I'm kind, but I'm only going to give you a recap. I'm not going to go deep into it. So I need you to do is go back to session 2, where you can get all of the details around those big topics. So let's talk about it. So we talked about values-based budgeting as part of a system for you to demolish debt. The reason that you need to know what your values are when you budget is because it'll be easier for you to find the things that matter the most to you and eliminate the things that don't matter that much to you. So you'll be able to use that extra money to demolish debt without feeling that you're just living for money. And the process for that is knowing your why. Knowing your why, what's important to you. When we were talking, some of us talked about financial stability being important to us, or fun, or our health, or family being really important to us. And then we looked at our budgets to see, if I say these things are actually what I value, where can I see those footprints in my budget? If I say I value health, are most of my purchases in the last month having anything to do with my health and my wellness? Or am I noticing that a lot of my purchases are because of convenience or lack of being organized, or buying triplicates and duplicates, or paying tickets? For a while, I was that person. I had like 4 tickets in 1 week. I'm still ashamed. So what we talk about is what we say we're going to do, and are we actually putting our money to do it? And then the third step in this process of finding your values in your budget is figuring out how exactly are you going to find the money to either add more to your values, or to find money to be able to eliminate debt. And we talked about various strategies around debt elimination. What we also talked about was the idea of an emergency fund. An emergency fund, for those of us that feel it triggers us, thinking about emergencies makes us feel closed and fearful. We said, don't call it an emergency fund. We said, call it for a saving for a sunny day fund. Call it a healing fund. Call it an opportunity fund. Call it a freedom fund. And for a lot of us who are in the great resignation and finding jobs that give us joy and leaving toxic workplaces, some of us call it a FU fund, right? When it comes to emergency funds, we talked about the 3-6-9-12 rule of emergency funds. And the 3-6-9-12 rule is how many months of living expenses or take-home pay do you want to have in your emergency fund? And we gave several explanations as to which one make the most sense for you. So I need you to go back and find out which of those make the most sense for you. Among them, as a general rule of thumb, if you have minimal debt and you're single, you would save on the lesser side. But if you live, say, in an expensive city, have dependents, then you'll have dependents, or you have a high paying job that's hard to replace, you'll save on the higher end. And we talked about demolishing debt without deprivation. Doesn't she? She doesn't look deprived. She looks like she's unbothered by anything. And so we talked about debt snowball method, which is where you take your smallest debts first, line them up all the way to the largest, and then pay off the smallest first after putting minimum balances on the rest. Debt avalanche is where you pay the highest debt with the highest interest rate first and continue to pay that off until all that is paid off and moving on to the next one. And then we have the debt snowflake method, which is where you have little bits of money, and that small amount of money adds up into a large amount of money, and you keep on throwing it at a debt until it's gone. And then we talked about advanced strategies like balance transfers, where if you're smart and you're a good steward of credit, you'll be able to use an offer that is a balance transfer to move your credit card debt onto a credit card with a 0 APR for a limited amount of time, and then use that time wisely to pay off the debt. So you will not be incurring debt along the way because you have no interest rate. So those are some of the things that we talked about last time. And finally, we talked about sexy credit, right? All these things end up adding up to sexy credit. When you eliminate debt, you live within your budget, it's inevitable that your credit is going to be sexy. And here are the typical scores for how FICO is calculated. And that's one of the general rules of thumb, general credit standards that we use in the United States here to determine your credit worthiness for you to get a loan for a car, for a home, for an apartment. And even in some cases, your credit is checked for high-end C-suite jobs to ensure that if you're working, say, for a financial institution and you have shoddy credit, that you're not near a company that you have access to a lot of money, because it seems like there will be a high chance that it will be tempting to touch the coins of someone else, right? So these are some of the big topics that we talked about when talking about credit during our last session. Now, if you have any questions about that, I need you to go back to session number 2, so you'll be able to really get into that and pose those questions. You can email me or send them to Christine, but for the purpose of today, we're really going to focus on the bridge between what we just talked about and what we came to talk about today. And the bridge is, a lot of times, for a lot of Black women, we focus a lot on the sexy credit and the debt elimination, the budgets, which are super important. They have a place. They always have a place. But at times, because we're just trying to play catch up, or just trying to keep our heads above water, or perhaps because we don't know the information, we overlook the long-term goals. Our long-term goals about who and all is going to care for me when I'm sexy, but not so young, right? And so we need to talk about how those decisions that we do from the day-to-day to year impact the decades and the many decades for us to live comfortably when we are no longer working, right? So I'm going to see if there's anything in the comments right now. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. So let me know in the comment section if you are ready to retire rich and relaxed. I need to see a yes. I need to say yes, Carrie. Yes. Ready. I love ready. Rich and ready. Relaxed and ready. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Mary. It's nice seeing you again. Thank you, Renee, Tamika. Yes, yes, yes. Let's get to this. I think Katrina was here a couple of times too, right? Okay, so we're going to make this bridge. We're going to cross this bridge together. Now I have a story for you before I even get to statistics. I was 25 and I had an aunt that was the caretaker of a lot of her sister's children. And this aunt gave and gave and gave. She gave her money, she gave her time. She gave it all until my mother and I, her oldest sister, had to find her homeless in a casino. I'm in New York City and we live by Atlantic City casinos in Jersey. We had to get a rickshaw to help us find her on the boardwalk because she was homeless and no one was there to take care of her after she had been taking care of everyone else. And so she came to live with us for 3 to 4 years to get herself together until she eventually moved back to Antigua. That's where my family is from. Now I share this story and I say it very matter-of-factly, but the place where Black women are in terms of their retirement, there are a lot of stories behind those numbers. And a lot of stories that include expectations culturally about what women are supposed to do, Black women are supposed to do with their families, but also there's some structural impediments that keep Black women from retirement. And I want to share a couple of them with you so you understand the context of what we're dealing with and why it's so important for you guys to think about yourselves right now and your future self. Because ultimately, in this society that we live in, we have to plan ahead. So when time comes, you won't have to, number one, find yourself without a home after having been everything to everyone and not having anything left for yourself. And then number two, being in a position to be able to possibly support someone else if they're not able to do that. So gender disparities through the careers of many of women of color, they don't receive Social Security at the same amount that men receive it. And then because Black women in particular make 61% of what white men make, and rather 61 cents to the dollar compared to their counterparts, they have less livable income to save for retirement. All right. And this is according to a Brookings Institute study that came out, I think, in 2020. And a Pew Research grant found that while men have more than that, that there's 52% of white men that have stocks, 52% of them have stocks in place for retirement. Just 31% of non-Latinx Black and 28% of Latinx households hold some stocks compared to the 61% non-Latinx white households, all right? So I just want to ask you right now in the comment section, how many of you have even started saving for retirement? Just, it doesn't have to be much, but you know that you've been working for at least a year or two that you're saving for retirement. Good, I'm seeing some yeses, I'm seeing some hands raised, okay? And if not, that's okay. What's most important now is that you're here for the education and the execution of that education. So when it comes to retirement, what they talk about in retirement theory is the three-legged stool, right? This isn't a stool per se, but this looks kind of like a three-legged stool. And so when it comes to the three-legged stool, those are the actual sources of where you will have money during retirement. The first one is Social Security. That's the first leg. The second, and then with Social Security, there's been speculation as to whether or not there will be enough Social Security number, enough money for you when you retire. And they say there's some statistics that say that it'll be depleted by even 2041. Now, we don't know because it's all speculation. But what I am going to say is that because it's speculative and we don't have control over it, this should be the smallest and weakest leg for you to rely on when it comes to your retirement. The second leg is the pension or the employee-sponsored program. And for a lot of you, you have it as a 401k, a 403b, a TDA, or a pension from your job. And with this, a pension is where the employer contributes money towards a pool of funds that are distributed to you when you retire as an employee, a former employee. And for young workers, this is supposed to be not as viable as it was for many of us back in the day. What they have replaced it instead with are 401k plans, which require the employee to contribute to their retirement, and their companies match some to a certain extent, to a certain percentage of their income, right? So this is and a lot of us know this. But the third leg, and a lot of us may not be thinking this is different from the second leg, but it is, it's your personal savings and investments. Your personal savings and investments, actually, they say, should be where the majority of your retirement income should come. It's been said that the retirement stool of the future may have three legs, but they would probably look more like a large column with two small kickstands, meaning that the larger column would be your personal savings and your investments, and then it will be stabilized by Social Security on one hand and what's coming from your employer on the other. And I just mentioned this too. So what we're going to talk about today is what we can control, and that's specifically the employee pension and your personal savings. But before we do that, I want us to start thinking about, because a lot of us don't think about the future, is I want you to visualize your future self. Are you going to be in Essence with cute dresses, looking all fly and taking on the world? Are you going to be like Maya Angelou and writing books? Are you going to be, I forgot this woman's name, but are you going to be 80 and being like one of the best bodybuilders post 80? Let me know. And that's what I want us to start thinking about, because in order for it to really mean something, it has to connect with us emotionally. Who do you see yourself being 20 or 30 years from now? And for some of us, that may have been 10 or 15 years from now. You have a better idea. Who is that woman? Who is future Mary? Who is future Janice? Who is future Erin? And actually, what I want us to do right now is I want us to take about 3 minutes to actually dream, and dream big, about what future Mary is doing on a typical retired day. What future Janice is doing, and who is she with on a typical retired day? Where is she going? How is she feeling? I want you to be able to actually go through the experience of feeling what it will be like and the emotions that come when you are going to retire. Right now, though, I want to know, how does it feel? Just even think about yourself in the future. Patrina says, cooking at my bed and breakfast. Yes. Amy says it's exciting. She's the one pictured in red. Yes, yes, yes. Ernestine Shepherd. Yes. So if you want to be like that, Miss Mary, I love it. So what I actually want you to do, I just don't want us to do this in the comment section. What we're going to do is actually, it's going to be for our first breakout. But before we get into our breakout and share, because this is major, a lot of us haven't even thought about, we're just trying to do day to day. Think about all the things that I said. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to actually journal about, who is this woman? What does she want? Who is she with? What does she want? What is she doing? I'm gonna give you 3 minutes. You guys can start now. So clearly, Amy, you'll be going to the gym. I love it. I love it. I want the whole picture. I want the whole picture. So take 2 minutes. You have about 2 more minutes just to journal about this. And then Erin, in about a minute, we'll send them into breakout sessions so they can actually share their vision of retirement. Okay, Erin, can you send them into breakout sessions? So you'll have 4 minutes in the breakout sessions. One person will talk for 2 minutes. The other person will talk for 2 minutes as well. And then we'll circle back and just kind of share out how that felt before we get into how can we actually make that happen instead of just visualizing it. All right?
Yep, sending everyone to breakout rooms now. Cara, you too. So you'll have to come back out if you want.
Okay.
Otherwise, hang out.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you. Erin, I think are the slides breaking up? Like can everyone see it, or is it just me having problems seeing the full slide?
It might be on your end. I can see them just fine, but I also want to make sure that I get this last person.
Okay, not a
their
problem.
room. 1, 2, 3. Let's see. Okay. They haven't joined, so I'm going to put Mary in a room. Okay, there we go. Everybody's in.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, I can see them just fine.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, so it's just me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Let me just get this ready.
Breakouts are on their last minute, so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I wasn't sure if you pressed the button or not. These ones,
Yeah.
I have to like reset the sessions every time, so.
Oh, you want me to stop that? What do you want?
No, you can do it. You can totally do it. Every time you log in, it resets itself to a or whatever. So it's just, I know the times change and every time in our sessions for how long we have. So I was like, let me just not reset this. We'll just press the button. Perfect.
Okay, I pressed the button. Yeah.
Perfect.
That's what I'm used
to.
Press the button.
Perfect.
Sounds good. I think they're still chatting it up because they're holding on to their seconds, which is great.
Oh yeah.
Have them share out some of them. Did you want to share?
Who, me?
You're visualizing your. We're going to get to a calculator, so I think there's going to be a lot of chatter in that too. Okay, welcome back, ladies. How was that? I want to have a couple of shares because I want to hear all the tea, all the retirement tea. What does future fill in the blank? What's she doing? Is she in these streets having fun? I hope so. So let's talk about it. Let's get about 2 people to unmute themselves and briefly share what was shared in their partnership or their triad.
Hi, this is Katrina.
Hi, Katrina.
And what I had said was that I felt every time I come here, I feel so empowered and be angry at myself for a few minutes, but then I feel like I want to fight and just get things done. I said that I felt empowered, and I would start the day with prayer, light breakfast, and a workout. Then read the financial sections to check and revise my stock portfolio, staying in my winter home someplace sunny, running my business remotely, and traveling.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we're doing all the things, Miss Katrina. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Anyone else felt equally inspired by Katrina and also wants to share what came up and how they see themselves retiring?
Hi, this is Tamika.
Hi, Tamika.
I just really enjoyed hearing the other ladies in my breakout session. Just really gets you very inspired. But my goal was that I want to move to Africa. I want to own land, and I want to build a beautiful house where I can just be calm and at peace and be able to, have my family come there if they need to visit, kids, grandkids, and all of that stuff. But be able to have my own space and not be worried about rent and mortgage and all of that stuff.
I love it. So, I mean, just between the two of you, I hear travel. I hear lots of travel. I hear lots of emotional ease. I hear joy in this. And so it's really important to hold on to those emotions because there's a price tag. There's a price tag that we're going to be talking about. And what does that mean for us to prepare for it? So it's just not, this is the number, I'm afraid of it. This is the number, I'm working towards it. Let me give myself some time. So let me back to sharing my screen. There are a couple questions we have to answer. Ask ourselves an answer or get answered. So the first question, after we know we have our big vision of where we want our lives to be when we retire, we got to know how much time do I have before this retirement? Now, some of us want to retire at 67. Some of us want to retire at 55, their own number. Some of us want to retire a little bit later. They love what they do. And this idea of traditional retirement, we just kind of don't do anything. This is not what I'm hearing for a lot of us. It's just a second shift or a third shift. But that's one of the questions you have to ask yourself and answer. How much time do I have before retirement? And is that a fixed number once I get my numbers? Second question you want to ask yourself is, how much money do I currently have tucked away? If you don't know those numbers, you can pull out your account in a minute because we're going to do some actual number crunching. And the third question is, how much of your current income do you want to replace every year of your retirement? Now, for some of you, I didn't hear anyone talking about, I'm going to go up the block to, Starbucks or 7-Eleven, get myself a tea and just call it a day and stay in my house. I heard money moves. I heard shaking. I heard travel. I hear bi-coastal. I hear bi-continental. So in terms of either replacing or surpassing your current income, we definitely have to crunch those numbers. And we'll be doing a calculator in a second, but some of the rules, the general rules around retirement, and with all rules of thumb, you take it as with a grain of salt, but it's important for you to know, well, how do I actually approach this? And once I get into it, I can move around and adjust accordingly based on my needs. But a lot of times we think about replacing 75% of our income and of our current income or our highest amount. And 75% may mean that you may not be moving and shaking the way you would like if you had maybe replaced 85 or 95% of your retirement income. There's no right or wrong. This is just information for you to start thinking about when you start getting to the nitty-gritty of those numbers. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now, and I'm going to actually ask all of us to go to, I have it up here. I'm going to leave the link right here for you as well. I'm going to ask you to go to NerdWallet. I'm going to leave it right here in the chat. And I'm going to walk you through how you can actually calculate those numbers just so you can actually see what it may entail for you to actually retire the way you want. And let's walk through this actual tool. I love this tool because it's easy, right? So if I put my age, I'm just going to say I'm 42, and I'm going to input my pre-tax income. Let's just say I make $75,000. And if I open up before taxes, and if I open up my retirement accounts, I would see that maybe I've saved, hopefully, maybe, let's just say $70,000 towards my retirement. And now I scroll down here to see these other options, right? This is, if I make basically $75,000, this means that I've saved about 10% of my monthly income according to this calculation, $625 toward my retirement over this time. Now, thinking about your monthly retirement spending, how much will you be looking at? Remember, I was talking about that percentage amount. Do you think that you'll be needing 75%, 70%, 80%? And then so you can move this number accordingly. If you're going to be spending up to, if basically need to replace your whole income, then I would move this up to 100. If you're going to be spending less than that, now we start with 75% of your income. It says 72%. Then this would be, you'll need $3,500 every month to live at 72% of your current income, right? And then you want to add here, I want to retire at what age? What age do you want to retire? Do you want to push it back, or do you want to add some, do you want to push it back, or do you want to take away some time? And just knowing this is one of the most difficult things to think about, because we never know, especially in the world of COVID and things that are happening. But based on your family history, your health, what would you say? And as women of color, we tend to actually live longer than our male counterparts. So a lot of us have at least 15 to 20 more years after our retirement age. And this investment rate of return, the reason it's at 6% is because it's a generally a conservative amount of a rate of return. Because if you were to move it to 10%, which is highly unlikely, as you see as trends go from year to year or decade to decade, that giving yourself a 10% rate of return is a little bit on the unrealistic side. Having something conservative like 6.5% gives you a stronger foundation for you to actually have your money last during your retirement, and having a good starting point for calculating how much you will actually need. All right. So what I want you to do right now is to take a few moments, and I'm gonna give you guys about 5 minutes to play with this calculator and open up your accounts. So please find out how much of your current savings do you have in your retirement accounts. And thinking about if you have IRAs, if you have a tax deferred annuity, anything that you have, put that current amount in this region right here, how much you make pre-tax, your age, right? And then come down here to the options to see your life expectancy, the age that you want to retire, and any other expected income that you may think you may receive. Say, for example, you're divorced and you will be getting you get your Social Security, but you also will, if you were divorced after 10 years, get your husband's Social Security or your partner's Social Security. You may want to include that as well. Or if you have other sources of income, you want to put that there. But what I want you to do is to get a clearish, because these numbers are just speculation, but they're stronger in terms of being realistic than not, for you to really see how much exactly would it require me to live the life that I want based on that vision that I have. All right, so taking about 5 minutes to do so. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually send you into breakout groups to share what your experience was like in looking at those numbers, right? You don't have to share the numbers, but I just want you to share the experience. But first, let's have you calculate these numbers. And I'm here for any questions that you have. there was a good question about what should you factor in as savings. So I would factor in any money that's your personal savings, that is your, well, let's start again. The things that are invested that could be possibly growing at 6% or more, right? And then we could add on additional monies that you may have, like your savings. Is that clarity? Does that give clarity? So those of us that have a pension, that pension is growing. That is, so when we talk about savings, it's important for us to also know that that savings is being invested, probably at least at a 6% rate. So including that as your current savings makes sense. Additional monies that may not be growing at that same rate, but that can actually be added to the additional income, that is also a place where you can put other expected income. The question is, Kara, how often should we be running these estimates if we're not currently working with a financial advisor? I think you should run these numbers, I guess quarterly, the same way you would do your net worth, because when you get a statement about how, so when it comes to your investments in your retirement, sometimes you have quarterly statements that come out. When it comes to your investments, they come out monthly. And so when you're tracking your net worth, which is what we talked about in our first session, where you stand with respect to your retirement savings and your non-retirement investments are also a part of the equation for you to see how much stacks are you sitting on. And it's a good point that Amy's bringing up here is that, no, Belinda, you should include what's in your 401k. Amy is also saying that you can also get your free you get complimentary sessions with your financial advisor at Summit. So make sure they'll talk about your time horizons, your risk, your goals as well. But for this particular exercise, it's for you to actually, if you've never even talked about how much money do I need to retire, this is going to help you figure out how far have you been saving for retirement and how much further do you have to go to reach those goals, right? So if you want, let's just say this person who's 42 and has a pre-tax income of $75,000 and has a current savings of $70,000 in their retirement, they save about 10% of their monthly income. Their monthly retirement spending, that would be require them to live the way that they're living now. They'll need $3,500 to spend at 72% of the way that they're spending now to replace that income. Another expected income, you can add whatever savings that you have. All right, ladies. So what I want to add before we go into our breakout sessions is that these numbers are just numbers. They're helpful numbers to give you an idea of where you are so you can move toward your goal. There's no judgment and there's no shame around these numbers. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to send you into your breakout sessions. See, Erin, are they ready?
Almost. I'm just about
all right.
60 seconds behind.
All right.
This is really great, Kara. I'm running through these numbers myself and just having the awareness of where you're at, where the goals are, and how to move forward is really key. This is great.
Right. So just to kind of, before we jump in, is just to see this section over here. How much will you need to retire at 67? So you would need, in this case, 1.94 million, right? But this is over years, ladies, 10 years, 20 years for you to reach this number. Plus, we are not having gotten to it. The love of compound interest. I can't wait to explain it to you, because this is not saving dollar for dollar. We're going to be talking about how your money grows. So if y'all feel it a little bit in your feelings, don't. These are just helping you see you got these goals. You're worthy of these goals. You deserve these goals. Let's just get the numbers. All right. So I'll give you 4 minutes in your breakout sessions for you to share. If this is the first time you ever seen numbers like this, well, I'm happy I'm the one to show them to you, right? In a safe space. And then we'll talk about that when we return. So I'm going to send you into breakout sessions. Erin, we're good to go. You can go now. I'm going to pull them back in a minute because we have a lot to cover.
Sounds good.
Yep. Okay, so you guys are back. So how was that? Let's hear like one or two. Oh, there's still, some of us aren't back. We got 2 back.
They're trickling in.
They're trickling, okay.
It'll push them out in about 8 seconds.
All right. All right, welcome back, guys. So let's get 1 or 2 quick, I think I have some new information. I'm feeling like fill in the blank. I'm not sure what the fill in the blank. It may feel very different than what the feelings were when we talked about our visualization, but I'm hoping that this is just going to empower you and make you want it even more. So anyone care to share what the exercise brought up for them?
Can I just ask a question? I'm sorry, it's Belinda. So a lot of times when I'm meeting with a financial advisor, like let's say like if I'm meeting with my 401k provider and it's just me, I always struggle because I don't know how to then talk about it when it comes to like my husband's income and his 401k retirement. Like how am I supposed to look at it, with as if like with both of our money? Because when I did the nerd, at first I only entered my income, but I'm like, that don't look right. And then I started entering his and mine together, but it was just like, but I don't know, so.
No, yeah, I got you. So what I would do is, just because if it's combined, right, you guys are around the same age, he's staying with you, right? You staying with him, right? I want to make sure that we're on the same page. All right, so you're good. You're a unit. You're a one. You are one, right? And so when you get into the details about his debt and my debt, then you can kind of, take away at the top. But the foundation is that you both are together going to be having a bucket or a pot of money that you both are sharing. So, and we're just using conservative return, rate of returns, just because his portfolio is different than yours. I'm assuming you're not doing the same thing unless you're investing identically and you're in the same funds as he is at his job, but you are at yours, and you're investing the same amount. But there's probably some variance there. So just to make it a clean general idea about where you guys are, putting those two together, like you can do his first and then do yours and then look at the totals at the end. If that, makes you feel you have an idea of where it could be coming from, which percentage of the contributions are coming from him or from you, or if it doesn't matter, just put the two together.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So how you guys feeling? I'm gonna get one more person because we're gonna be talking about the beauty of compound interest once we get started with our investing, or once we boost our investing.
Oh,
retirement.
I'm feeling pretty good.
Yay!
Yeah, I think I'm on track.
Yay! I love to hear that. I love to hear that. So wonderful. And just make sure you play with the the percentage of how much you're replacing, so you get to see, like, you may be able to ease up on what you're doing and or continue to contribute and still live life right now while still meeting your day-to-day and year-to-year financial goals and obligations. So wonderful. So let's talk about, and this calculator could be, I like this calculator because it's nice and simple and clean and easy to understand. But the calculators are one of, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other when it comes to just clicking the numbers and putting in those numbers. Most important, like Christine was saying, is the level of self-awareness that comes with retirement. Retirement isn't just some random thing that happens. It's a number and an experience that you want to have, and you want to put those two together. All right. So let's talk about how we can make these numbers grow. When it comes to growing your money, the beauty of investing for your retirement, whether it be in your job sponsored or you start retiring on your own, is that you do not benefit from simple interest. No, you benefit from compound interest. And I wanted first, because a lot of us say compound interest, and we just kind of use it, but I always felt it was very important for us to see why it's so important to start early and start now, and that every little bit helps. So let's just take an example of you deciding to invest year one with $1,000, right? And we have a made up interest rate of return of 10%. So you see here at the top, principal, the interest rate is 10%. That's why as a decimal, this is 0.1, 0.1, 0.10. And then the profit from that is $100, right? The next year, that same $1,000, you receive another 10% in terms of rate of return. Your profit is $200 now. The third year, that same 10% is $300. You have a total profit of $300. Not bad. I'm not complaining. But let compound interest come and be your friend, and let's talk about some things. Sorry. Oh, no, that was. Yes. Compound interest. Compound, guys, I'm smiling. Okay, I'm smiling because it is so good. So let's take that same $1,000. At the end of the year with that 10%, it becomes $1,100, the same way it was in the previous simple interest example. However, When you come to year 2, that money follows you. Do you see where I'm getting at? And then that 10% is added to that new principal, and you end up with a profit, right, of $110. And then your total profit is 1,000. You move from 1,000, you have $1,210. And then the third year, that 10%, that third year, it's not the principal. You're not starting out with $1,000, guys. You are starting out with $1,210. I'm just going to sit back and let that marinate for you. You like my style? Listen, you are winning when you compound and get this money in these accounts, because the 10% is added on to that higher principal, which leaves you with a profit of $121 the third year. So the $100 the first year, as we saw in the simple interest, but year 2, things start changing, start getting grown and growing for us. $110 becomes your profit because your principals are $1,110. And in year 3, it becomes, your profit becomes $121 because your principal is $1,210. They're not starting us from scratch again. So your total profit is $331. Do you see that? Do you see why we need you to have your money make money? And why it's so beautiful that when you start putting in your money as early as possible, even if it's a little bit, and then you increase each amount, that I'm an East Coast girl, please don't shade, but Biggie talks about this kind of in Big Papa when Puff Daddy says in the interlude, tell your friends to get with my friends. That's money in my mind, right? So we can be friends. We can do this all weekend. Yeah, we can keep it banging, right? That is your retirement. So if you never looked at Big Papa, if you never looked at Biggie or P. Diddy for every other reason, if you did not like East Coast because you guys on the West Coast, no shade, remember when you think about Big Papa and when P. Diddy talks in the interlude, you can see the power of compound interest, because the friends here is the money growing. The first year friends became the second year friends, and they added to their third year friends. And you started, and this happened every weekend. So the compounding happens every single day. So your money grows. Now, if you're not excited, then I haven't done my job, because I need for you to really begin to see that even if those numbers were large in the calculator, you still have the opportunity to make your money grow if you do not leave it just to be in your savings account. And if you begin to get more aggressive about your savings. So let me just hear what you're feeling about this compound interest, this beauty of compound interest. Christine says, yes, compound it. Yes, love that connection. I'm very happy. Love compounded. Yes, yes, yes. So let's move on. Now that you know how to compound, let's talk about what that means also. How does your money double so you can know? Just an important rule of thumb. The rule of 72. The rule of 72 lets you know when your money is going to double based on the rate of return. So let's keep this same example of a 10% return. A 10%, so 72 divided by 10 is 7.2. The 7.2 equals the number of years it will take for your investment to double. So the sooner you start, the sooner it will double. And the more you put in, the more that will be doubled. So if the rate were 9%, then it would take 8 years to double. Do you see that? So all this is giving you the knowledge that you need in order for you to make sure that your money grows and you have a clear idea of how long it will take for you to get there. So thinking about your retirement year or how long you have before you are going to retire, this will help you understand how much maybe more you want to input, or was it Janice that was saying that she's in a good place? All right. So how do you guys feel now about this process? Do you feel like you have a strong handle, or at least beginning to have a clear understanding of where you are and where you need to go with your retirement? Now that we've gotten that out the way, I just wanted to offer you just some general information about your options when it comes to retirement. Now I just put Biggie here just because I like him. All right, so you have your 401ks and your 457s. You guys mostly know what these are. I've talked about them earlier in the conversation. These are the company sponsored plans. So I don't know how many of you are entrepreneurs on the call, or how many of you are working for a company, but these are ones that are issued by companies. Like they said, rather than the pension these days, usually governments offer pensions, but 401ks have replaced the pension, which is more stable because you were paid after you retired, and it was a constant and a stable source of income. With the 401k, you put into it, the company may match it, and it works the same in terms of having distributions once you retire. And this is the same, it goes for, sorry guys, the same, it goes for, the same goes for the idea of a 457. It's a 401k like retirement account for government employees, right? So this is information for you need to know. This is stuff that you can Google, so it's not important for you to know, like, I can't give you the ins and outs of it. You can Google it, but it's just important for you to know that the limits, there's a question right here.
There was a question that came up in the chat. Someone has a government pension. She doesn't have the exact amount of what that pension is. How can she account for that within the Nerd Wallet calculator?
Well, your pension, there's a certain amount of money that is going to be set aside for your pension. So I would talk to your HR person, because it is a number. You may not know it, but and I think that's an important realization for you to have, that when you retire, they've been putting around, depending on the pension, they may put away 3% every year for your pension, towards your pension, of 5%. It depends on the organization. Some people get a 1% pension in some companies that have pensions. So I would go to my HR person and find out and ask them, well, what is the actual amount that I have for a pension? Because a lot of us think that my pension is my bread and butter, but when you know it's really small amounts, and we go back to that stool, that idea of that column being your personal savings and investments, really becomes more realistic, right? Because you talk about having a fixed income, pensions aren't huge. They're a help, especially if you don't have anything, but they're not the sole source of when we're trying, if we have time to cultivate a holistic retirement plan. Pensions will hopefully be a nice add, but not the central place where you're going to rely on for your income when you're no longer working. So back to this, the 403Bs, this is 401ks for non-for-profits, right? And I don't want you leaving any money on the table. So if your company offers a match, get it. So invest the amount that you need, or have allocations up to the point that will get you the match, especially if you have other obligations and it's still a sacrifice for you to do it. Make the sacrifice, because that's extra money that you're adding for your retirement. So if they say they match at 5%, you invest or you allocate 5%, you're really having 10% of your pre-tax income being taken for retirement. And that's 10% as opposed to 5%. And then you can always come back and increase in increments of 1% or 2%. IRAs. Now, IRAs can be done for people who are both act as an employee, and also when they work for themselves. And it's just an individual retirement account that anyone can open. You can go talk to Amy to see how Summit Credit Union can help you open up an IRA as well. There are usually 2 IRAs. They just differ in terms of how tax benefits go. The traditional IRA, that means that with traditional IRAs, it is used, they use pre-tax contributions. So then that lowers your taxable income for the years it grows. And then they take the money out once you take out distributions. Distributions are when you take the money out after 59 and a half years old. Roth IRAs use after-tax dollars. So after you have paid with that after-tax dollars, you don't have any taxes taken out on the money that you withdraw once you start taking the money out after the age of 59 and a half. When it comes to contribution limits, in 2021 and 2022, you can only contribute up to $6,000 for an IRA, plus an additional $1,000 if you're over 50. And the whole thing is that you can both contribute to an IRA and your company's employee benefits program, whether it be a 401k or a 403b, whatever it is, as long as it doesn't hit certain limits, right? And when it comes to what you want to do, the idea of having too much saved for retirement, you would first look at the numbers to see if you're on track to doing so, and then decide if making sense, does it make sense to have an IRA and a tax employee benefit, or could you be using that same extra money to invest in a non-brokerage retirement account, which allows you to have more access to your money and not have it be held into your 59 and a half. That's totally a decision that you can talk to with anyone at Credit Summit Union to help you make sense of, what should I be doing? Am I putting too much towards retirement and not having enough for like debt elimination? Am I putting too much toward retirement when I can actually be using it for investing or buying a home or something like that? You'll be able to talk to them about getting those details ironed out. Now, if you are self-employed, here are some ways that because you are your HR department. So you have to be thinking about this because no one else will. So there's the solo 401k, and it's the 401k that's just for self-employed people. And you have contributions that allow for up to $61,000 in 2022, or it's $67,500 if you're older than 50 years old. All right. And this is just the rules of thumb about how you can, if you decide that this is what works for you if you're self-employed. A simplified employee pension is a SEP IRA. When it comes to how much you can contribute, it's the lesser of either 25% of your compensation or $58,000. And in 2022, it will be $61,000, right? But if you have employees, you have to contribute the same amount that you're contributing to yourself into their retirement. So be mindful of that as well. And then you have the simple IRA, and that's for small businesses with less than 100 employees. You can contribute up to $13,500. That was in 2021, and for 2022 is $14,500. All right. And when it comes to this, they are expected to have between a matching of a 3% or a 2% non-elective contribution. All right. So when it comes to these kinds of decisions, if you're not working for someone, if you're not working for yourself, then this doesn't apply, but it's just good to know that if you decide to, there are opportunities and structures there for you to have a retirement as well. And when it comes to the KEO plan, this is available to self-employed individuals and unincorporated businesses, and they are tax deferred and can be either have a defined benefit like a pension where the employee does the funding, or defined contribution where the employees do the funding, right? These are just things that you can just know as interesting for knowing the landscape of how America works with retirement. But if you're not self-employed and you don't care to be, and you don't have to be, this is just something, oh, nice to know. Now, we've done a lot of talking. You took me on travel. I was in Ghana. I think I was in parts of Africa. I was on beaches. I was with husbands. I was at bed and breakfast. And I want this to actually come true. So we have to create a strategy. Now, a lot of us, you know how we are. We're nice and young looking, but we know it's not going to always be that way. You know, even if we age well, we're still aging. We want to make sure that we have a strategy. We can always look good. We want to be wealthy and looking good. So things that we've talked about implicitly here and there, but throughout our conversation, let me explicitly say that part of your strategy is to start now. Biggie would want you to do that, right? So start now and start small. If you're, I don't know how many of our ages are here, but I know there's probably a range. Contribute at least 25%. I mean, if you're 25, contribute at least 5%, you guys. You're young, you know, I understand. You want to be out there and contribute 5%. You can do both, right? Or get a side hustle. You have the energy where that money goes strictly toward your retirement. Age 30, contribute at least 10%. 35, 15. 45, 20%. Now, if you can't reach these numbers, there's no shame. But if you're asking, where can I start? Start someplace. Start at the match. For you to get the match from a company, start there if you need someplace to start. Now, the goal is to go towards contributing at least 15% of your income in general from the jump. But if you can't, that's okay. But if you can start at 5%, then you know that pushing up to 7% isn't going to be hard in the next couple of months, because you already know what it feels like to have that money taken automatically out without you having to do it. So think about every 6 months, bump it up 1 or 2 percentages, just so you know that you're thinking about your future self, making sure her life is set, and you're living in the present without feeling too deprived. Increase your allocation with every raise. Now, some of you may not be in corporations where there are raises, but my definition of raise is a little bit different. If you find $10, you know, that's $10 you didn't have to spend. So how can that, when you think about it, be thought of extra money in general that comes through your hands, right? What does that look like for a lot of you? Starts by just knowing that you're saving on something. If you receive a 2% raise, contribute more by 2%. If you continue to live on the same budget, this will be easier for you to do. If you have a raise, you keep this, you don't engage in lifestyle inflation. And if you want to speed it up, I say 1 to 2% every 6 months, but you may want to decide you want to do 2 to 4% every month if you feel that you're on, you have all of your needs met, you have most of your wants met, and you feel good about where those numbers are going. Destroy the debt. In session 2, we talked about the role that debt plays. Remember, guys, we were talking about the rate of inflation earlier, and we talked about the beauty of compound interest. I should have said this in parentheses, when it's working on your side, right? When it's working on your side, because when that interest compounds and it's debt, imagine how it grows. So let's think about that rule of 72%. That rule of 72, we were feeling great when it was added up on our investments. But think about it when you have debt. And the interest rates, unfortunately, when it comes to holding debt, are always higher than sometimes the rate of returns on investments. Your credit card, 22.5%. 72 divided by 20, let's make it 20 just to make it clean, right? That's 20, that's about 3 or 4 years. That's when your debt will double. Do you see that? When it's not working on your side, you're in your feelings. So my whole goal for you is to destroy that debt, because all that money that is going to somebody else can be going to the future self and the future goals and the future juiciness, all right? I know it's difficult to avoid debt at any age, but again, my whole goal for you is to just see it a little bit differently. If this debt has this interest rate that's not growing towards your investments, whether it be retirement or outside of retirement, then how can we move it faster to being eliminated so it can start to do so? Now, for a lot of us, we may have to play catch up, and that's okay. So when you have to play catch up, I want you to start to reconnect with your budget. Going back to that first discussion from the top of our session, where I talked about the budgeting and how do we talk about values-based budget. If you have never even budgeted to see where your money is going, that's the best place to start, because you'll be able possibly to find a couple $100 that can actually be invested into your retirement account that you won't miss, and it can actually engage and activate that compound effect. So I need you to reconnect with that budget and go through it line by line, thinking about, is this something that's really important to me? Then I keep it. But if this is something that's not really important, can I reduce it or eliminate it and then use that money directly to increase my allocation for my retirement? I just said all these things really fast. Work a little longer. That's what we had when we were looking at that calculator, when it says, when do you want to retire? And I asked you, well, is that a flexible number? If you love your job, great. But if you also realize you need a couple more years for the compound interest to accrue, then you may want to work a little bit longer so you have that amount there. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a strategy that you can use, and it won't require you to do anything more than show up to where you were showing up anyway. So you don't have to go back. That's the other thing. You want to do it once, so when you actually retire, you don't ever have to come back. But the idea too of you may have to work during retirement, you may like it, maybe with someplace else. And there's part-time opportunities at places like retiredbrains.com or retirementjobs.com that can offer you the chance to not touch your nest egg as much because you're living off or adding this additional stream of income. So that's something you may want to consider. Move. Well, someone already talked about moving to West Africa. And if you decide to move to West Africa, Ghana, my husband's from Ghana, it's great. Your $1 is $1 is 6 CDs and you can live well, right? So if you are in the spirit of moving, or you're in the spirit of moving down south, or you're in the spirit of moving to someplace that is less expensive and more cost effective, and that will allow you to extend the life of your nest egg, that may be a possibility and a necessity depending on where you are with your retirement planning. Now, I want you, we only had a few more minutes. So what I wanted you to do is, for at least 3 minutes, is begin to pull it all together for yourself. And what I mean, your turn. We've talked about it all. We've talked about all the things you would need to do to get you relaxed and retired. Now, what I'm asking you to do is to put it into steps for yourself about what do you need to do? What do you need to do this weekend after we get off this call to prepare yourself for a better retirement? And I like to think of this, the 1% rule. What can I do to make my retirement plan 1% better so you don't feel overwhelmed? Who can I speak with at work to help me increase my contributions just a little bit more? Who can offer me emotional support? Let me call this girl. Girl, oh my God. Do you want to talk to me about your retirement? Let's talk. Let's be retirement accountability partners. Who can I do that with? And I want you right now to take about 2 minutes to do that, because this is going to be something that I want you to spend the rest of March paying attention to. And April, because April is Financial Literacy Month. And April is Black Women's History Month. So there's a lot of reasons why you need to be doing it for the next couple of weeks, just to make sure that you have at least a handle over the things that we discussed in this conversation, because there was a lot of information that I offered to you. So I'll give you 2 minutes. Oh, and Amy says kids can invest too. Yes, I think there's a custodial IRA. Amy, I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to, but they can invest as well for their retirement. And that's outside the 529 or anything you want to put aside for them for any college education. Okay, 1 more minute, guys. I just want anyone, if they feel inspired to share, to unmute themselves, and we'll take 2 volunteers. All right, that's time. Does anyone care to share? If not, that's good, because this was a lot. But Tracy says, you want to retire early? Tracy, I want you to retire early too.
Yes. I do have to admit the calculator was just such an eye opener. It helped me to see I'm a little bit behind where I wanted to be able to retire early, but I still see it feasible.
Look at that.
So I'm excited about that.
Good for you. Good for you. All right, ladies. So as you begin to really get deeper into the details about this without overwhelming yourself, because I'm not really like person that sits there and like makes a 15-page plan. I don't do that. I'm like, okay, I need to do this on Monday, this on Tuesday, at this time and this time. I need to talk to this person. And that's enough, because once you have that information, it will open the next steps for you to do the next step. All right. So don't feel like you have to have some type of manifesto with all this. You don't. Just do the first thing. Put one foot in front of the other when it comes to retirement. Answer these 3 questions and answer them, and then move forward with what comes after that. All right. So hope you guys are feeling good, because we are up for the recap. You guys, it has been a pleasure. So let's talk about what we've discussed. We need to think about your three-legged stool and the strongest legs of that stool. Get clear about the type of lifestyle you want to have upon retirement. And you need to run your retirement numbers to see if your dream and your vision of who you want to be and what you want to do when you retire can actually become a reality. Okay? 4th is get smart about your retirement option plans and work towards maximizing them. So if you're working for yourself, make sure that you're not putting everything back into the business and not thinking about the business owner. Sorry, there's traffic. I mean, there's an ambulance and a fire truck. I just let it pass. Right. Step number 4, make sure that you're thinking about the self. Okay? Thinking about taking care of the most precious person to you, which is you, the oldest version of you. And step 5 is execute a plan that allows you to stay on track and catch up. Let's use our youth and our wisdom to our advantage. And I should have put, but it's understood, compound interest is your best friend when it's working for your retirement and your investments. When it's not, when it's on your debt, and you want to get rid of it, right? So what I'm hoping is that this has left you feeling ready to retire, rich and relaxed, and prepared to do so with a plan of action and an emotional sense of, I'm capable of doing this. I got this. I know what I have to do next. I know what I have to do right after I get off this call. I know what I have to do on Monday, and I know who I have to do it with and what time I have to do it. Schedule it in your phone or schedule it in your calendar to make sure that you are taking care of your future self. And I will open it up for any questions.
Kara, I have a question.
Yes.
How early can our kids start investing? How early can we set up those accounts for them?
Before they're born? No, I mean, I'm being flippant. As soon as they're born, I would say. Yes.
Okay.
They have to be alive, right? But you can, I mean, you could put money away even in your own account, and then when they're born, you can shift it into theirs. I have custodial accounts for my daughter for investing, for savings. I haven't opened up a custodial IRA, but that's a thing too. Children can have that for them done by their parents, but there are limits to that as well. Right. Millie says as soon as you have their social security number. Exactly.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's my step for the weekend.
Anybody else? All right. So what I'm going to ask you guys, if there's no other questions, let's do a quick preview of what's going to happen in our last session. It's April 30th. We're going to be talking all about investing that is not retirement related. And it's stocks, it's bonds. It's going to be talking a little bit about crypto. I'm not a crypto queen, but I'll introduce you to the larger framework of what it is. We'll be showing you that the road to wealth is with compound interest in this respect. In addition to all the other areas, real estate and entrepreneurship, but we're talking specifically about how investing can make your money work for you. And I'm really excited to be sharing that with you. And what I also want to do, if you want to stay in touch, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm just going to put the link right here. And I will hand it back over to Christine if there are no more questions.
This was so wonderful. Thank you, Kara. Again, as I've mentioned many times before, I love this series. It's literally changing the trajectory of our family. So I greatly appreciate the time. Thank you, all of you, for taking this morning out to learn about how we can make changes today, this weekend, towards not only our future, but the future of our family and our children. I want to send a big thank you to Amy as well for joining us from Summit Credit Union. Thank you, Aaron, for doing all of the Zooms behind the scene. One thing I also want to point out is that we are having a raffle. So for those of you who are attending today and you also attend next week, you'll be entered into a raffle for some awesome swag, Well Black Women swag, or a $50 Visa gift card. So we'd love to see you again next month. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. Thanks, Kara.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.